Welcome to another Steeler Thoughts and Chief Feelings film review. This episode will be a review of the Chiefs' 17-10 victory in LA against the Chargers in Week 4. But first of all, thanks to all of you who've been following along. We release our Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast, usually on Monday or Tuesday of each week. That'll be available wherever you get podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And the film reviews here are available on YouTube, and we clip both. We do little clips of both as shorts on YouTube and on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at STCF715. Thanks to you also who've been following along on our Twitter after Chiefs and Steelers games. We try to post some clips and have some discussion. That's, again, at STCF715. Well, in this Chiefs win from this past weekend, there are several things to look at, so let's get started. And we're going to start on the Chiefs' first drive. We are here. The score is 0-0. The Chiefs received, and they got themselves into a third down situation fairly early. And so let's check out their third down play. Chiefs here are spread out. They're lined up in shotgun in 11 personnel. They've got one running back, that's Samaje Perine, and one tight end, that's Travis Kelce. The three wide receivers over here are from inside to outside. You've got Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and Justin Watson. The Chargers are showing a cover 2 look. So it looks like they've got two deep safeties that will, in a standard cover 2, they'd each be responsible for a deep half. Everybody else appears to be manned up. So it looks from the snap like a cover 2 man. So what you'd expect is to have somebody over the top of Kelce and somebody over the top on this side. Assuming how the Chiefs do things, they tend to run Worthy on deep routes, so you'd think that somebody's going to be on top. What the Chiefs do with their route combination is they've got Xavier Worthy run kind of the deep level. Rashee Rice does like an intermediate dig, and Justin Watson comes on a drag route underneath. On this side, Kelce gets an outside release and runs a go route. All right, so let's watch this play develop. The first thing you'll note is at the snap, watch the Chargers safeties. They've started in a cover 2 alignment, which is what you'd be reading pre-snap. But then this guy ends up staying down, and so it actually ends up being a single high safety. So they've got the cover 1. This guy's responsible for the intermediate zones, and he's looking at this side of 3 that are all coming inside, right? So he's responsible for the intermediate zones, which means that you've got Kelce one-on-one without any safety help over the top. So Mahomes, as you can see, is looking straight out at this point. He's kind of reading the defense, and once he notices this, that there's going to be nobody over the top of Kelce's route, he decides to throw the go to Kelce immediately. And Kelce, to his part, gets his outside release and wins. And look at that separation. So, if there's any doubt about whether Kelce is still going to separate against man coverage at this age, I think that should be removed. I mean, he's one-on-one here against a corner, gets his release, gets his separation. Look at that. Easy target for the throw to come in. And that's a big gain to Kelce. I think what this throw kind of elicits is Kelce remains an option for Kansas City here. There's been a lot of talk about his lack of production in the first 3 weeks, and I think that is more, it's because of the way defenses have been playing him. They've been really devoting 2 people to him, a lot of extra attention to him, making Mahomes go elsewhere. And B, I think the Chiefs have really been trying to get Rashee Rice to be the focal point of their offense. He's, a blossoming wide receiver, and he wins in a lot of the same areas that Kelce wins, in those kind of intermediate underneath areas. So I think they've been kind of transitioning to a point where they don't want to need Kelce to move the ball down the field. But as this play shows, when they play him one-on-one and don't give extra help, he can still get open, and they will go to him when they have opportunities. It's a huge gain, a nice win from Kelce. The other thing to note from this play that would become a theme in this game is watch how quickly this pocket becomes muddy for Mahomes. So Mahomes takes the snap. He's at the back of his drop. And look at Wanya Morris really struggling with Khalil Mack over there. He gets walked right into Mahomes' lap by the time he throws this ball. And unfortunately, there would just be many snaps today where Mahomes didn't feel comfortable in the pocket. The pocket was collapsing around him. He didn't kind of trust it to hold up. And it did make, there were some guys running free that they weren't able to hit because of it. Because Mahomes had to pay attention to so much to what was going on in the pocket. It's not like Jawan Taylor had that easy of a time either. He starts getting walked back as well. So the pocket really collapses around Mahomes, but Kelce wins very quickly here. So he's able to kind of take his outside release and go, and that quick separation. Like, look at that against a corner. That's wide open in the NFL, and Mahomes puts it right on him for the first down. Now from the end zone view, we're going to be able to see a little more about what happened with the line. Watch first Wanya Morris on Khalil Mack. And really right from the first contact, Wanya just gets walked right back into Mahomes' lap. If you look on the right side too, Jawan Taylor is not faring that much better with his assignment, Bud Dupree. Although he does kind of, I should give Jawan Taylor a little more credit. He does kind of hold up finally. And maybe that's because Dupree notices Mahomes is throwing and decides to jump. But he does give more room. At least there's some room there for Mahomes, as opposed to what was going on with Wanya. The other thing to note, and this is another kind of theme that goes on throughout this game, is watch this defensive tackle on the right here. Okay? He's going to stunt around. This time he gets picked up by Joe Thuney, but this became a theme, and this isn't new, but this was something that the Chargers did very intentionally to Mahomes. Is after a while they started having their end crash in and have a tackle stunt around, but not so much stunting around to try to, pressure Mahomes, but to stunt around because they felt like when they pressured the end in, Mahomes would escape, and they wanted someone there to pressure him on the escape. This was something that was fairly successful at times during this game, and I'm sure we've seen it before. This isn't the first time, but especially with the difficulty that the tackles were having at times, I'm sure we will be seeing it again. But let's just take one last look at that throw. Great throw from Mahomes to Kelce. That connection is alive and well. It's a big first down. Well, the next play after that play we just showed you was a Carson Steele fumble recovered by the Chargers, who then promptly marched down the field and got us to the point we're at now. So it's still a scoreless game. Chiefs fumbled on their first possession. The Chargers are now at 2nd and goal on the Kansas City 7-yard line. The Chargers are in 11 personnel. They've got one running back and one tight end. And the Chiefs are in nickel because they have 5 defensive backs on the field. 4, 5 right there. They've got the 2 linebackers and then their 4 down linemen. So what the Chargers are going to do here in this red zone play is they're going to run a zone read, but a pass concept off the zone read. So your typical zone read, you're going to have the edge here is not going to be blocked. The quarterback has the option to hand off to the running back for an inside handoff, and he reads the edge. And if the edge crashes down, the quarterback can hold this and run. If the edge stays outside, then the quarterback can hand it off to the running back for the inside run. Well, the Chargers run a pass concept off of this. So they start with the zone read concept here, there, and then Herbert's going to throw a pass off of it. And what they do is they actually use the running back to block that initial unblocked defender. And so the zone read holds Malik Herring, so he doesn't initially rush because he's anticipating the potential handoff versus quarterback run, and then he has a delayed rush at the end. The rest of their pass concept, they've got Quentin Johnson running an out route. They have the tight end, I believe that's Hurst, coming across and going into the flat. They've got McConkey coming up the field and going toward the post. And Josh Palmer is running underneath on a drag route. And the Chiefs kind of do a man match with the way they're handling this. So basically, these two are bracketing anyone. Well, it wasn't Palmer. I shouldn't have drawn him. It was McConkey. So these two are kind of handling inside outside of somebody coming deep. These two, it's Najee Johnson and Justin Reed, are doing the same with Johnson, like inside outside responsibilities on anything going deep. And McDuffie, Bolton, and Tranquil are handling kind of the underneath. So since McConkey releases deep, McDuffie leaves him. When Palmer comes in, McDuffie runs with him. He helps underneath. Johnson goes deep, and so they kind of high-low him. Najee Johnson coming out here, and Justin Reed getting him on this side. And Dissely comes across to the flat, and honestly is kind of left. I mean, he's really kind of Tranquil's responsibility here. So if we watch, kind of see how it progresses. These two are taking McConkey. These two are taking Johnson. Dissely is out in the flat. I've already called him Hayden Hurst, and I've called him Dissely. I think that is Dissely. Yeah, that's Will Dissely. Dissely's out here in the flat. And then Josh Palmer underneath is being covered. And so we talked about Herring, who is being blocked by the running back. If we go back and watch him, so he realizes they're not going to run this ball. And so the running back tries to block him, but he just hops over and gets immediate pressure on Herbert, who's forced to fire this ball in. He decides to throw to McConkey, who, as you can see, is covered extremely well. But Herbert just fires a missile. So the real benefit here in this situation, when you're Herbert, is he's not going to make a play inside. He's not looking at the ball. Brian Cook isn't, but McConkey is. So if you place a throw on Brian Cook's side, especially away from Brian Cook somewhere low where he can't get to it, McConkey will know you're throwing it there. Brian Cook will not. And he just threw a perfect ball. I mean, this is a missile. And I mean, that's not defensible, honestly. You can't, as a defender from Brian Cook's position, do anything about that. It's a great throw and a great catch from McConkey, who manages to get his knee down. I remember when I watched this live, I thought there's no way he got 2 feet down. That's not a touchdown, but he got his knee down. It's a clear touchdown. Just a great throw from Justin Herbert. You can see from this angle, you'll be able to see the zone read concept very well. So remember, if you're running a zone read, they're going to block down because you're leaving this guy as the read. But he gets frozen by the concept, right? He thinks a run's coming, so he freezes. And then Dobbins tried to cut him. That didn't work. And so Herring did get some good pressure on Herbert. And honestly, the way that Herbert was walking after this, you wondered if he re-injured that ankle again. But he actually seemed to be moving fine. At least as fine as he was before the injury. So I'm not sure that Herring's hit really did much to hamper any limited mobility that Herbert already had. You can tell he wasn't 100% clearly, but I don't think it was because of Herring's hit. I think he just came into this game not being 100%. All right, so we've got the Chiefs' first play on their next drive after the Chargers touchdown, now down 7-0. They had their first offensive drive. They were moving the ball a little bit. Then they fumbled. Now here's their second offensive drive. And the Chiefs come out here in 12 personnel. So we've got the one running back, that's Carson Steele, and they've got Noah Gray and Travis Kelce as their 2 tight ends. Then their 2 wide receivers are Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. Now, if we watch the Chargers get lined up, the Chargers are going to run a fairly standard cover 2, it looks like. They've got 2 deep safeties. Now, Noah Gray's not going to go out for a route, so the entire route combination is going to be on this side of the field. So they end up kind of shading over to this side of the field. It is interesting that the Chiefs decided to run a route combination to the sideline side instead of to the wide side of the field, because the Chargers didn't really have a ton of ground to have to cover, and it ended up being a really congested play, which ultimately didn't help things from the Chiefs' perspective. But as you see, Rice is coming in here, and he's going to do an orbit motion. And so what they end up running from here is Worthy is going to run a deep clear out, and Kelce is going to run a corner pattern. And watch, and Rice will kind of take the fake handoff and run out to the flat. So they are able to create a little bit of space with, the idea here is we got 3 levels, right? We've got Worthy going deep, Kelce is intermediate, Rice is short, and so you kind of flood the zone and hope to make defenders make decisions that give you an opening. So this is where Mahomes is rearing to throw right here, and this is what he's looking at. He's looking at Worthy coming here. I would argue that Worthy is so fast that this guy is not going to keep up with him. So Worthy might be the guy to throw to on this one, just based on, this guy, it's not like he's like turning and running. He's definitely looking back at the quarterback. If Worthy books it, there's a safety right here, but that's still like some distance. I think one would say that Worthy is probably the number one kind of read on this play, assuming he's gonna kind of go out. You see how far in the safety was, right? Like the safety is all the way over here. But I can see why Mahomes threw this to Kelce. He trusts Kelce, and Worthy does have a guy running with him at this point. But the throw, this is a tight window, right? Because another thing is, look at, they have the fake action here. So we're looking eyes down here now. There's kind of a fake action to Rice. And you see what it does to the underneath defenders. They kind of come up. But watch where they go after now. So watch these 2 defenders. They're just completely keying on Kelce. They're getting depth. Nobody's worried about this, right? They're just bailing out to try to find Kelce. So if you look at Mahomes as he's releasing this ball, not a huge window, right? Like you've got defenders coming up from underneath. You've got this guy up top who, if he was in a position where he was just all out turning and running with Worthy, that's one thing. But he's got eyes in the backfield and he's ready to stop. So this isn't a huge window, and even worse, because it's a small window, you can't miss this throw. And the throw is over Kelce's head. And the way to gauge windows is by how close they get when the ball gets there, right? This is not a huge window to make a throw to from here. And Mahomes overthrows this. He throws it, and the defender intercepts it at the back. It's a bad turnover. One possible reading of this is that maybe they weren't on the same page, and when Kelce is making this break, Mahomes thinks he's going to run it more like that. And so that's how he's throwing it instead of flattening it like he did. But in that scenario, the defender and Kelce would be meeting right there at the catch point, so that wouldn't be ideal either. You don't want to get fooled into thinking Worthy is this open, right? Because that's not when Mahomes was throwing the ball. The Mahomes is throwing the ball here. So he's having to kind of base it on the body position. Honestly, I think more than anything, he just trusts Kelce, right? He's trusting Kelce here. He trusts that they believe Worthy is a legitimate threat. So you probably think this guy is going. But ideally, to me, with this guy still turning his head and looking like you throw this one, is my kind of armchair quarterback opinion. Would be happy to be explained why that's not correct, but that's what it looks like to me. And Mahomes, one of 2 things happened. Either Mahomes just overthrew this ball, or he thought Kelce was running it like this and they weren't on the same page. Either way, it's a tough throw and tight situation. Part of the reason because the Chiefs started on the left hash and they ran a flood concept to the boundary. If you run the flood concept to this side, you have way more room and it's not as congested. Maybe you don't get this result. Maybe you do. Either way, it's a bad looking play for Kansas City, and it results in an interception, the Chiefs' second turnover in 2 drives. Also, unfortunately, it results in a very short field for the Chargers. And then we come to the even worse part of this play. So Rashee Rice actually coming down on the interception return manages to come and punch this ball out. But at the same time, Patrick Mahomes is coming over and trying to make a tackle, thinking he's preventing a touchdown. He ducks his head and, really turns his back and doesn't see where he's going, and so misses the charger and hits Rashee Rice as he's planting that right leg, which is a great recipe for tearing ligaments in your knee, unfortunately. And Rice was out for the game at this point. As of this recording, we don't really have a definitive answer on what happened. I think it's a little telling that they haven't just said he tore his ACL. It makes it seem like maybe there's some... he's already had an MRI at this point. So it kind of makes it seem like maybe it's not as bad as we thought. Like, if it was a torn ACL, it'd be a torn ACL. Or if it was a torn ACL plus, it would be a torn ACL plus. But they would have just confirmed he's out for the year. The fact that they have not confirmed that makes me wonder. Like, I still think it's probably very bad. But why are they waiting on this? What's going on? So it gives you a sliver of hope that maybe it's not season ending. Although if I were to bet on it, I would bet it was season ending at this point. Creed Humphrey actually recovered the ball here, but a Charger touched it while he was out of bounds before Humphrey had possession of it. So at that point, by rule, the ball's out of bounds, and so it's like the Charger player fumbled it out of bounds, and the Chargers retained possession. You can see the throw now again from the end zone view. This was actually a good pocket for Mahomes. Didn't really have any major pressure to contend with, and look at that throw, just right over Kelce's head. So the question is, was he expecting Kelce to run this route deeper? Or was it just that he missed the throw? Hard to say. Either way, disastrous. And then we can see here, you can see Rashee Rice come and punch that ball out. And then right after he punches the ball out, unfortunately, so he punched it out right there. And then Mahomes unfortunately hit him while his leg came down and planted. And he hyperextended that right knee. We'll see what the extent of his injury is, but if anything, it's at least a tiny bit of good news that we're at Tuesday night and they haven't confirmed anything yet, but it didn't look good. All right, we've jumped ahead a little bit in the game now. It's still 10 to nothing now. Chargers are leading. And the Chiefs now have a 3rd and 9 at this, I almost said San Diego, at the LA 41-yard line. This play I chose because it was a little exemplary of the kind of funk the Chiefs offense seemed to be in at this point. We've seen, they turned it over on their first 2 drives. They seemed to really struggle to move the ball. And then after those first 2 drives, and then here we are on the 3rd drive and they've got a 3rd and 9. And the Chiefs are lined up here. They are in 11 personnel. They've got Samaje Perine as the one running back and Travis Kelce as the tight end. Their 3 wide receivers on this side are Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, and on the outside is Juju Smith-Schuster. So this is one of the rare times you will see that a defense just completely outfoxes Mahomes. So typically Mahomes is pretty good with his protections at recognizing what's going on, and the way that this resulted kind of made me feel like this was another situation where Mahomes was just a little bit spooked. He was a little bit off. So what the Chiefs are trying to do is they've got Worthy running a clear out. They've got Watson coming in and sitting, and they've got Juju running a whip route on the outside. Kelce is going to help chip and then come out. Well, the Chargers, as Watson comes in, so the one downside about running these kind of more condensed formations with receivers inside is it allows defenders to appear to be guarding them and to blitz from shorter angles. If you see where Watson was initially, it's a little harder to get to the quarterback when you're blitzing from out here than it is when you're blitzing from in here. So they brought Watson in, and they're sending a guy from the edge. They're actually sending, this is a zone blitz that they're running, and end up sending how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And dropping out here. And the Chiefs just weren't ready for this. And they end up getting their free guy off the edge, which is, to the Chiefs line's credit, if you have a free guy, you want them to be coming off the edge because there's a little more time. And he's coming, to Mahomes. He's not coming from his blind side, right? However, Mahomes tries to dodge him and is not able to and goes down for the sack. And so, a little uncharacteristic, like we said, well, actually pretty uncharacteristic to see Mahomes outsmarted, right? That doesn't really happen that much. But the other thing that's a little interesting to me is that Mahomes has a guy who could be considered hot here. Like, once he takes a snap and realizes there's a blitz, there's your guy, right? Watson is running a little longer developing route. He's running a clear route. Neither of these guys are going to be looking back at the quarterback until it's too late. So I would imagine, like, once you're dropping back and seeing the blitz, you want to get this out to Juju. He's running a whip route. His defender's on off coverage. Like, I know it's 3rd and 9 and you'd be throwing like a 4-yard route, but at least you're giving yourself a chance here. And why Mahomes didn't do that, I can't really say. I don't know if, he felt like, maybe he felt like Watson would realize, or I don't know. As you can see, Kelce's not really an option as a hot route because he chipped to start, so he's getting out in his route very late. But Juju was there. If you want to throw this whip route, unless he felt like the timing would have been thrown off too much, but at least you give yourself a chance, I don't know. This, to me, it just felt like Mahomes, understandably, was like a little shaken at the beginning part of this game, like 2 turnovers in the first 2 drives, throwing a bad pick, and then laying the hit that severely injures your number 1 wide receiver. Then, in the next drives, he just felt like he wasn't able to trust the protection to hold up, to actually, move the ball the way he wanted to. And so I don't know. There was an earlier sack on the drive previous to this, or maybe it was 2 drives previous to this. And on that sack, he had Justin Watson kind of running free at the very beginning, again, on, successful rush from the Chargers. And it just doesn't, normally we're just used to Mahomes getting to that, when everything's breaking down, or when someone's going to run free off the snap, he usually identifies that. And so the fact that he wasn't, and that he didn't identify the blitz this time, was just, it just felt like something was a little bit off. And that's the feeling that we got kind of in this early, quarter and a half of this game. From this view, it might give us a better idea of what Mahomes is looking at. So he does seem to be looking over toward like Worthy and Watson. Watson's right next to Worthy off the screen. But you wonder if he didn't even see the blitzer until here, which is unfortunate. You'd hope he would have been aware, but yeah, he kind of keyed on to that route combination over there. And I do wonder that if he had seen this blitzer coming off, or if he had realized, A, like why it took him till here to realize, and B, if he had seen it, whether he would have just gone to Juju and get that out quick. But unfortunately it didn't happen, and that was a sack for the Chargers. So we've seen some plays that are demonstrative of how much difficulty the Chiefs offense was having in the first quarter and a half of this game. But after the first couple drives where the Chargers scored points to go up 10-0, the defense really started to stiffen up quite a bit. And here is an example of that. So we are still in the second quarter. The Chargers are up 10-0, and they've got a 3rd and 10 at their 2-yard line following a great punt from Matt Araiza. They got into 3rd down, and here is another situation where Steve Spagnuolo just makes things happen with his ways of confusing protections. So the Chiefs here are in their dime look. They have got 6 defensive backs on the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The lone linebacker is Nick Bolton. And the Chargers are completely spread out in looks like 10 personnel here, although no, Disley's on the field. So this is actually 11 personnel. 1 running back, 1 tight end. And let's watch a little bit what the Chiefs do. So first things first, they rotate Chris Jones outside and Karlaftis inside. So Jones is lined up against the tackle. And then they've got Bolton, and especially you see Justin Reed creeping up here at the snap. So again, the key to this is what it makes the offensive line account for. So the tackle is going to block Chris Jones. Well, here the guard is worried about Justin Reed, and the center has to block Karlaftis. The guard here is going to block Tershawn Wharton, while the tackle has, it looks like Felix Anudike-Uzomah on the end. So with 6 guys up around the line, this is how the line has to account for them. So that you're going to account for him. We said you for Reed, you for Karlaftis, you for Wharton, you for FAU. And if Bolton ends up blitzing too, then they've got the running back to account for him. Well, what ends up happening at the snap? So remember who's accounting for who. So both Reed and Karlaftis bail, and they drop back into zones. So you've got the center and the right guard blocking nobody. We said Nick Bolton is the one the running back's accounting for. He's going to come in here through the C gap. Or sorry, that's the B gap. The B gap between the guard and the tackle. And then they blitz. They have him come in late, the Trent McDuffie, and he blitzes, and he's going to blitz right into that C gap as well. So you started by thinking, okay, the line is going to account for these 5. The running back's going to account for him. Well, no one's accounted for him. And since the running back is coming for Bolton, and you have McDuffie and Bolton both hit the same C gap, one of them's coming free, and it is McDuffie who comes free and hits Herbert and forces an incompletion. This is just incredible design from Spags. You get the situation where 2 linemen are blocking air because the guys they have to account for who have creeped up have dropped. And on the other hand, you have 2 blitzers coming through a gap with no offensive linemen ready to block them. The running back has to contend with both. He takes Bolton, which is the right move. He's the inside guy. And you let the outside guy go. McDuffie, he hits Herbert, who is unsuspecting, and forces the incompletion. Just a beautifully designed blitz. And so let's look at it again. From this view, we can get a better idea of the protection. So what you're thinking when guys are creeping up, we've got to account for them, right? Like, you cannot let somebody come free like this. So what they've done, and the other thing that's key here is how late McDuffie creeps in. Because the later you come in, the less likely it is that the protection has accounted for you. So with this group here, you've got, you're blocking him, you're blocking him, you're blocking him, you got him, you've got him, and if he comes, that's you. But then what happens, these 2 drop, right? So since they've dropped, look, these 2 are blocking nobody. Both Bolton and McDuffie, who's completely unaccounted for, come in through the C gap. So the running back has to pick one. You pick the inside guy. The outside guy comes in and gets a hit on Herbert. And that's an incomplete pass. So just remember, every time you see like George Karlaftis in coverage getting beat, and you are like, why is Karlaftis out there in coverage? It's so you can run cool blitzes like this. And when the blitz comes home, you're not asking Karlaftis to do very much. So just remember, for every time you've seen a lineman running downfield and been mad that they can't cover anyone, why are we doing this? It's because those kinds of plays result in plays like this, which get the defense off the field. So this play might have really been the turning point of the game. The Chiefs offense started with a fumble. then an interception and Rashee Rice's injury being out for the game, and really sputtered after that. It looked like Mahomes was a little off. It looked like the protection was really tough, that they weren't able to keep his pockets clean. We had Sky Moore drop a third down pass. Everything was looking out of sync, and now we're getting close to 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. The defense had settled in after giving up those 10 points off of turnovers, but the offense really hadn't looked like themselves for a little while. The Chiefs get the ball here off a punt, and they've got first down at their own 46-yard line, 4:06 to go in the second quarter, down 10-0. And they decide to run a shot play. So the first thing that's kind of interesting about this shot play is how they ended up blocking it up. So they're in 11 personnel. They're Kareem Hunt, the one running back. Their two tight ends here are Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. Sky Moore is one wide receiver, and Xavier Worthy is the other. So let's watch Sky Moore come across in his jet motion and then head back. And so that the way that they're going to block this, they actually end up blocking down. So what that ends up doing is they leave the end for Noah Gray. And Sky Moore comes across in his jet motion to help out, so Noah Gray can then leak out for a route. And they actually pull Creed Humphrey over, and he ultimately ends up blocking the end. So watch Creed come out and block the defensive end. So the defensive end gets kind of a three-part. It's like Noah Gray, kind of the equivalent of like a heavy chip. Okay, Sky Moore's got you now until we get Creed here. And so Sky Moore comes out and leaks out for a route too. Very interestingly blocked up. Their main pass patterns are Xavier Worthy running a go and Travis Kelce running a deep over. And the benefit of this route concept for them is that, so the Chargers are looking like they're in quarters, which is basically they have 4 players that are each responsible for a quarter of the deep portion of the field. With quarters coverage, it's a little more kind of ambiguous who is in whose area, because if you are thinking of yourself as like having a quarter, then somebody could run into your area from below, somebody could run into your area from behind, and you might not know. The idea is you're supposed to stay with the deepest guy, but for example, Worthy running a go is not really in this player's quarter, but he could come and run a post in theory, in which having him help out would be beneficial. So it's a little more ambiguous than just having like a safety over the top, because each person is just responsible for their own area. And if somebody doesn't come deep in your area, you may be responsible to come up. So this is a good example of the attention that it gets paid to Travis Kelce. So Worthy is blazing down the field over here, but Kelce's coming on a deep over, coming into his area. So he sees Kelce and comes down, which results in Worthy being one-on-one. And, nobody's running with Worthy. So you really have to not just be with Worthy, but way on top of Worthy. So the moment that 32 right here allows Worthy to get even, like that, there's no chance. And look at what Mahomes sees it right there and winds up. And at this point, like, Worthy's gone. Like, there's no chance here. Mahomes lets this ball go, and this is a beautifully thrown ball. Chris and I were talking about how Mahomes often throws deep balls on a line, like he doesn't really get a ton of air. I mean, he got a lot of air under this ball, and it's a perfect throw. What a great pass for a touchdown. This was also just psychologically so nice, because this is what the Chiefs offense was, right? You think you have a lead, and in one play, the Chiefs can completely change things and, make it feel like a different game. And it was nice to see that, I'm trying to think of the last time the Chiefs did that with a play on offense, where they just went deep and completely changed the tenor of the game. The last one that comes to mind off the top of my head would be in week 2 of 2022, when Justin Watson caught a deep pass from Mahomes I think the Chiefs were also down 10-0 in that game. That was a Thursday night football game, and Watson caught a touchdown. If I remember correctly, it could have been 14-0, but I think it was 10-0 at that time. But, so we're talking about like over 2 years ago is the last time off the top of my head I can remember the Chiefs just getting back into the game with a giant play. So nice to have a weapon like Worthy, and he's going to start opening things up for more people underneath. If you can see it, if you run these coverages and you pay attention to Kelce underneath, Worthy's going to get open. And the reason why we didn't have opportunities for Kelce underneath in last year as much is that if you drove down on Kelce's route as this guy and covered him, you weren't getting punished up top. We had the Chiefs receivers last year dropping a lot of deep balls. Worthy's not doing that. So now all of a sudden you're going to have situations where people are forced to run with Worthy, and Kelce's going to be able to run routes like this into completely open space. If nobody comes down, Kelce is going to be wide open over here. So that's the kind of thing that's going to happen if once defenses start respecting what Worthy has to offer, if he can keep providing the Chiefs with big plays like this. We can just see the throw from this angle. And the other thing, you can see the blocking scheme. So Creed is the one that's going to come out, and he's ultimately going to block him. Very interesting how they do this. It goes Gray to Moore to Creed, who ultimately blocks him. But then let's see the throw. Look at that throw. Perfect. And the flag there that was thrown was for pass interference, because as you can see here, the defender does tackle Worthy before the ball comes. But Worthy does a great job, great concentration catching that ball, getting it in, and touchdown Kansas City. All right, now we're into the third quarter. The Chiefs are still down 10-7, and they are facing a 3rd and 4 at the Chargers' 47-yard line. And the Chiefs now are lined up in 11 personnel. They've got one running back, that's Carson Steele, one tight end, that's Travis Kelce, and their wide receivers are McCole Hardman, Xavier Worthy, and Justin Watson. And the Chiefs are going to run a play that's designed against man coverage. And this is the reason why I selected this is a play that the Chiefs have run in the past on like gotta have it situations. And the guy they would usually run it for is Tyreek Hill. They did do it, I think, once, and it's possible maybe twice with Kadarius Toney. But it's really designed to be run with like a quick wide receiver. And it's really nice to see that the guy that they ran this with, I don't even remember them running this at all last year. I think when they did it with Kadarius Toney was 2 years ago after he had been acquired in a trade, but I could be wrong. They might have run it at the goal line once with Kadarius Toney. I don't remember. But it's nice to see that Xavier Worthy is being trusted. This is a 3rd down, kind of. Andy would always use these in like gotta have it situations. Kelce running over, and so the play is called sprint right option, and it's actually a play that I don't know who created it, but it was popularized by the Bill Walsh 49ers that used to run this play. Actually, the catch by Dwight Clark was on this. That was this play, sprint right option, in the NFC title game against the Cowboys, but Dwight Clark was not the intended, like, it's not the person that this play is designed for. It's just that the play failed and Montana had to roll out to the right, and he ended up just throwing it up to Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone. But the design of this play is essentially, we've got man coverage here, and so you try to get the outside receiver to pick the inside receiver's guy, and the inside receiver runs an out route. And it's sprint right, so they move the pocket, and Mahomes rolls over to the right, and he's trying to hit this guy on an out route. You may remember the two that come off the top of my head are when the Chiefs were trying to seal the game in Miami in the 2020 season. I remember them running sprint right option to Tyreek Hill. And again, in the divisional round, they had a key fourth down when they were up 22-17 against the Cleveland Browns. That was the game where Patrick Mahomes left the game with a concussion, and Chad Henne ran sprint right option to Tyreek Hill for the game-sealing fourth down conversion. I'm pretty sure they've run it with Tony, but I can't remember off the top of my head when that was. Anyway, so Hardman does a great job of getting his defender basically to pick Worthy's defender, and Worthy comes out and gets a quick... The key is just getting out quickly, getting beyond the sticks, and he completes this for the first down. But you see, the reason why it's called sprint right option is the option the quarterback has in theory as he rolls out is if this isn't there, he could theoretically try to run. As you can see on this play, that wasn't much of a great option. It's not like he had... But Hardman did such a good job. Look at McCole Hardman's route and how he ran it to the inside of Worthy's defender, and he doesn't make contact with anyone, so there's no way to call offensive pass interference. Let the defenders run into each other. Hardman just kind of slips by. That's more than enough separation for Worthy to get the first down. But it's just cool as we can run it in real speed. It's just cool to see Worthy being the guy trusted to do this. This is like a go-to play for Andy Reid in gotta-have-it situations, and it's nice to see the young guy, the rookie, being trusted in kind of high-leverage situations. All right, another hugely impactful play here. We're now into the early fourth quarter. It's a 10-10 game, and the Chargers have a 4th and 1 at the Chiefs' 3-yard line. This was, the Chargers chose not to take the field goal here to take the lead, which just personally, in my opinion, I think is the right call here. It's just a 4th and 1, go for it, try to score. I think that's the decision I would make if I was in Harbaugh's position. So the Chargers, first of all, they tried to get out of the line really quickly, right? They get out of the huddle in formation. They try to snap it quickly. Teams have been trying to do that to the Chiefs for a while, especially the Chargers, for several years. And, I mean, the Chiefs, it doesn't seem that effective. And honestly, what happens, like what I feel like happened to the Ravens when they played the Chiefs in week 1, when they try to fourth down like this, is you don't get a chance to get an idea of what the Chiefs are doing. Because, the one advantage of lining up quickly is like the defense has less time to see what you're doing, but you also don't get a good idea what they're doing. I don't know that it really mattered either way on this play, but I don't know that running up to the line is the kind of effective game plan against the Chiefs that it used to be a couple years ago. So what the Chargers end up doing is they run this pass pattern. They run a fade over here, and then out of their bunch, they're going to have a drag route by Johnson. They're going to have Hurst come like a post, and they're going to have Palmer run a corner. And this fella under here, I believe this was who they really wanted to go to. If you notice, when they come out of the line, it's kind of like what the Ravens did with Zay Flowers on the 4th down they tried against the Chiefs. He's kind of hanging out here and going out to the flat. But the Chiefs were absolutely ready for that. They actually had Tranquil and Watson ended up keeping eyes on him in the flat. And what the Chiefs do so well is they kind of do these like man match concepts where they kind of cover guys in an area. So Najee Johnson is kind of taking over there, whereas at the goal line we've got McDuffie, Bolton, and Tranquil based on area. Watson is kind of deep here, and then we've got Reed and Cook being more deep in the end zone. They do a good job like carrying and passing people off through these areas. And so Bolton, as you can see, he does this a lot, and this is a really clever thing that more people should do on these shallow drags in the red zone. You're allowed to contact receivers within 5 yards, so Bolton just gives him a shove on the way through to kind of disrupt the timing of his route, and then McDuffie picks him up there. But if you can see, everybody's pretty well covered. Cook, Johnson, and then we've got the combo of Watson and Reed, and then Tranquil. Everybody's pretty well covered, and then McDuffie down here. But that's not really the important thing about this play. The important thing about this play is the disruptor, who is Chris Jones. Just absolutely, they managed to line him up to get a one-on-one with the right guard. And I think part of the reason for that is the presence of McDuffie kind of sliding in here. I think the left guard ends up being a little occupied with him, and then Wharton is right up over the center. So normally if you're going to have a double, it's the center kind of helping out, right? But with Wharton lined up over the center, that makes it hard to get any help over there. You've got Karlaftis rushing the tackle, and so they end up getting Chris Jones one-on-one. And look at how fast he wins. I mean, he's just around him, and Herbert has no chance, having to run off his spot almost immediately. You know, Herbert, look at him dropping. He's hitting the back of his drop, and he's already having to move off. He doesn't even get a chance to kind of wait for this to develop. Chris Jones chases him out, and then big props to Felix Anudike-Uzomah over here, who is aware of what's happening, disengages, and comes in to pressure this throw. And actually, he gets a good hit on Herbert, but he pressures the throw, which ends up being inaccurate, so there's no chance of conversion here. But as usual, the guy who's responsible for the disruption is Chris Jones getting through. And again, heads up from FAU, because if Felix doesn't disengage here and Herbert's just running away from Jones, there's a chance this guy's got a great arm that he's running to his left on his bum ankle. He can still make at least a somewhat catchable throw. We saw what he did to Lad McConkey in the first quarter. So I think that hit from FAU was crucial here. This throw just had no chance. We can see it even better from here. So you see Chris Jones lined up here. And look at him just break right through. There's no chance. And look at that inaccurate throw that results. I mean, he's just so dominant, Chris Jones. And he comes up at these clutch moments, you know, fourth down. And see where, if Herbert, you can see Herbert does look hobbled, right? He's not running like you would expect him to run. But FAU getting off here was very important, so that throw ended up having no chance. All right, we're at about 8.5 minutes to go in the game, and it is still anybody's game. It's a 10-10 tie, and the Chargers have 3rd and 9 at their own 16-yard line. So when looking at this play, I think the first thing that's cool to notice is watch what the Chiefs do on defense. So the Chiefs are lined up looking like they're in cover 2. They've got Brian Cook and Shamari Connor, 2 safeties back. Another safety, Justin Reed, is playing down in the box. They've got Trent McDuffie in the slot. Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson are the outside corners. And then watch how they rotate. So Shamari Connor comes down. Najee Johnson kind of drops back. And they actually end up playing a cover 2 where they have a corner, Najee Johnson, who had played some safety in college. I think he was like initially considered like a tweener, but he's only played corner in Kansas City. He's a corner and a safety playing deep. You've got, safety, linebacker, and slot corner as your like underneath guys in the cover 2. And one flat is covered by a safety and then another outside corner. So again, Spagnuolo with some nice rotations, changing things up. Really likes that hybrid personnel that can do anything. But the man of the hour here, the guy we're really paying attention to, is Tershawn Wharton, who just continues to be the Chiefs' second best defensive lineman through the first quarter or so of the season. He was showing up. If you remember, we did a film review of the Chiefs-Jaguars first preseason game, and one of the most notable things I felt from that game was how good Tershawn Wharton looked. And he has carried it through. He looks so good this year, and we can watch him here and watch how he disrupts this play. So as Herbert goes back, he just walks the guard right back, and this is where you start seeing the effects of Herbert's limited mobility, because remember, it's his right ankle. That's the high ankle sprain. And as he kind of steps up, he really doesn't want to drive off of that right foot very much, and he ends up going to the ground as he throws this ball. But he gets moved off the spot by Wharton. There is some kind of complimentary rush on its way, so it's not like maybe if he was at full, 100%, he can escape here. But he clearly doesn't want to push off that right foot. You see him kind of take a step there, almost like a little double step, but he doesn't want to drive off of it, so he just jumps into the air and still gets off a decent throw. He really is a very capable quarterback. But Jalen Watson's able to contest it, and McConkey's not able to catch it. And that ends the third down. But he's the guy you want to watch, Wharton. He's just been so good. And it's so nice for the Chiefs to have two solid guys on the interior right now. But you see Wharton just walking him back right into Herbert. And Herbert, look at him. Look at how he tapped that right foot. He's just not comfortable running around. He was sliding and all that was fine, but look at him not. He doesn't want to drive off of that foot. Look at him kind of do a hop off of it instead of really planting it and throwing. Still threw a good ball though, but they weren't able to come up with the completion, and the Chiefs get off the field on a key third down. 10-ball game. This is the ensuing Chiefs drive. They've got first down at the 40-yard line after their punt return. And the Chiefs come out in 13 personnel. So they've got one running back, that's Kareem Hunt. And they've got three tight ends, Kelce, Gray, and Jared Wiley. So this is a formation that looks like you're going to run the ball. And the Chargers have answered by having 5 defensive linemen on the field. And then 2 linebackers and 4 defensive backs. So they're not just in a base with 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers. They actually have 5 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers. So they're really looking for the run here. And the Chiefs had ran the ball fairly successfully. Kareem Hunt actually looked pretty good in this game. And so the Chiefs take advantage of this by running a play-action play. It's another kind of shot play where they have Worthy kind of wheel around and then run a go. And then Noah Gray ends up coming in, and he's just trying to get open between, the idea being that Worthy running his go is going to bring the safety back and probably the corner out, and the run action is going to bring the linebackers up. So Gray is trying to come here and just settle in the open area. First thing to note is that Bud Dupree rushing on the edge here, Travis Kelce has some trouble stopping him from getting to the corner. Dupree gets around, and Jared Wiley is supposed to come and help, but Dupree gets there quickly, so Wiley ends up having to kind of cut over and try to help out. Mahomes does a great job here of stepping up and avoiding the rush, and it's very fortunate that Mahomes and Wiley didn't collide with each other, and Wiley is able to come help out and get this block at the end. But Dupree did a great job of getting around the corner against Kelce, and Wiley then came helped up. But Mahomes really did a great job, very nimbly kind of stepping up, getting out of trouble, seeing his guy Gray and getting the ball to him. And just like the Chiefs drew it up, Gray ended up having a ton of space in between the linebackers and the safety who had dropped for Worthy. And so they get a huge gain to Noah Gray. I will say, you do wonder if Mahomes wasn't rushed here. I mean, look at when he's about to throw this ball. I feel like he could have had a touchdown to Gray. This guy's looking into the backfield that he's not keeping up with. Sorry, I said Gray, I meant Worthy. He's not keeping up with Worthy down the sideline here. When you're a safety looking into the backfield, Worthy's going to run right by you. It's a 4.2 140. So I do feel like if Mahomes had, at this point, just decided to launch one to Worthy, that might have been a straight touchdown right there. But Gray's wide open. This is not a bad thing to take. I'm sure Gray was his first read on the play. So when you drop back and your first read is open for a first down, you take it. You're not looking around to see if there's anything better. And he ends up getting a pretty substantial gain. In fact, probably based on where the first down marker is, he probably got close to 30 yards, maybe about 28 yards or so. So big gain for Noah Gray. We can see it here. So remember, Kelce's one-on-one here, and Wiley is coming across to assist, but Dupree ends up winning so fast around the edge here that Mahomes ends up, and the play action, if you see Mahomes' play action, ends up drawing him almost right back into Dupree's path. It's even harder to block an edge when the quarterback's going to be in a really deep drop, because it makes it a little more of a straight line. You know, in this position, if he's taking a standard drop up higher, Kelce can try to force him around. But he's a deep drop because of the shot play and the play action. Wiley does a good job getting involved there, and Mahomes gets out of trouble. And you can see he's just taking it immediately. Like, he's not even thinking about Worthy on the sideline. He's got him open, big first down, got the chains moving on a big drive. All right. Well, the Chiefs came down and scored a touchdown on that last drive. The drive that started with the Noah Gray catch we just broke down. And so now they're up 17-10, and we are at about 4 minutes to go in the game, and the Chargers are faced with a 3rd and 11 at their own 45-yard line or so. Chargers are here in 11 personnel. They got one running back, one tight end. And the Chiefs are going to run another Spags special. So let's see how Steve Spagnuolo managed to confuse the Chargers' protections this time. First of all, he's got his ends like way out wide here, right? Chris Jones and FAU. They're way out wide. So Chris Jones is going to be accounted for by the tight end over here, and FAU by the left tackle. Then he's got Nick Bolton mugging up here. So now the left tackle, or the right tackle, has to account for Nick Bolton, and the right guard has got George Karlaftis. He's got Turk Wharton here over the center. Like we said, FAU is here. And then late, Justin Reed comes in and starts creeping in. And so they're really good at, they get guys coming in fairly late, so it's difficult to say whether they're going to be accounted for. Justin Reed creeps in, and then Shamari Connor creeps in even later, really timing it at the snap. But again, so Chris Jones being accounted for by the tight end, Bolton by the right tackle, and the right guard to Karlaftis. So what ends up happening is Bolton and Karlaftis drop out. So the right tackle and right guard don't have anyone to block. The right guard ends up kind of helping out on Wharton, but still the right tackle has got nobody, and Chris Jones is coming here off the edge against the tight end. Justin Reed attacks the left guard, and he comes in and does a good job of attacking his inside shoulder. Kind of, we broke down a blitz where Justin Reed was the first blitzer in front of, I think it was Watson, or was it McDuffie? I don't know. We've had so many blitzes this year. They're all running together. But he does a good job of attacking one shoulder of the lineman to open a wider hole for the real guy that they want to run free to get through. I also feel like him attacking that inside shoulder kind of drew the running back's attention, coming and sitting inside in case he was going to get through, which ultimately allowed Connor to just swing right around the running back and come free. Connor moved Herbert off of his spot, and him moving off his spot gave Chris Jones a free lane to come in and clean it up for a sack. So let's see this from the end zone view so we can get a better picture of what's going on here. So like we said, Disley's got to account for the wide Chris Jones. The right tackle here has Nick Bolton he's got to account for. The right guard is accounting for Karlaftis. The center has got Wharton. So it's Zion Jones that ends up being the guy that they're coming after, because here Anudika Uzoma is going to be taken by the left tackle. So watch how late first Reed comes in right here, and then Connor too, right? And again, look at Reed and the way that, and so first of all, these two guys drop off, right? So these two linemen have nothing to do. The guys that they were accounting for are not blitzing, are not rushing whatsoever. The right guard goes in to help the center, but the right tackle still has nothing to do. Reed, as he comes in, if you notice, he's kind of pushing inside here to get 77, I think that's Zion Johnson, to move in with him, and look at how big of a lane. That's a great attention to detail by Justin Reed. It's the second time we've noticed him doing something like that on a blitz this season. And I really do wonder if that, honestly, I'm not sure exactly what 28 is thinking here. I don't know if Reed moving inside was part of the reason, or if he's staring at Bolton. I don't know what he's doing, but he doesn't seem to have any awareness that Connor's coming off the edge, which is probably why he's doing what he's doing. If he saw Connor, he would have been out there trying to help block him. But he doesn't see Connor until it's way too late, and Connor's past him, gets Herbert off of his spot, and that allows Chris Jones that lane to come in and to sack him. This would actually be the last play that the Chargers offense ran all day. The Chiefs got the ball back here and never relinquished possession. And our final play of this film review is the final meaningful play of the game. This is the Chiefs have the ball up 17-10. They're 2 minutes and 22 seconds to go, and the Chargers have no timeouts. They're facing a 3rd and 6. Basically, if they convert, they can run out the clock. If they do not convert, they'll punt the ball back to the Chargers, who have a chance to come down and score a touchdown with no timeouts. So the Chiefs end up in 12 personnel. They've got one running back, who's Samaje Perine. They have one tight end, that's Noah Gray right there, and this is Travis Kelce right here, 2 tight ends, so 12 personnel. Their 2 wide receivers are Xavier Worthy and Justin Watson. So the Chiefs anticipate man coverage on this 3rd down, and they, in order to deal with the man coverage, they run a mesh concept. So first they're having Watson just coming here, and Travis Kelce kind of runs over and then across. He didn't run that curved over route. That was just poor mouse work. And then Noah Gray runs the upper part of the mesh, and Xavier Worthy is really the guy who you're trying to throw. This play is designed for Xavier Worthy. And the play design gets him free in 2 ways. One is they have him like off the line of scrimmage, and they're having 2 guys come up and him come underneath. So he gets a pretty free release. His defender has got a lot of mess to run through. And then with the mesh concept, if necessary, he can also get a pick from Noah Gray. Again, such a good sign that the Chiefs are choosing to run these kind of key plays for Xavier Worthy. The Chargers end up running a cover 0 blitz. So cover 0 means that there's no deep safety in the middle of the field. They end up rushing 5, and they hold. So they've got man, he's a man, he's a man, he's a man, he's a man, right? And so their 6th guy after they rush 5 is this, so he's kind of on a delayed blitz. I think he's the wraparound guy. We talked about earlier, right, that they would crash people down and then try to get Mahomes to run out. This is what he looks like he's doing, the 6th guy. He's waiting to see if Mahomes is going to scramble out and anticipating. See, look at the way that their rush plan is. They're kind of coming around the arc here, and look at how intentional they are about coming in here. So this is the scrape guy who is trying to get to Mahomes if Mahomes were to scramble. However, Xavier Worthy with a free release coming across the field, especially with his man having to run through all that, I mean, there's no chance. If you notice, Noah Gray, Xavier Worthy's got quite an advantage here. He's really outpacing his defender. So Noah Gray doesn't even bother attempting to pick his guy or do anything, which is smart. Why do anything that could draw a penalty when this is a win? Like, Noah Gray running and seeing this knows, like, we got this. We're done. So don't do anything stupid. You don't need to try to do anything. They complete it to Worthy, who gets a 15-yard gain. And honestly, like, Asante Samuel Jr., the guy chasing him, is pretty fast. And he had a good angle. But if not for that, this is cover zero. Like, if Worthy were able to turn the corner on him, not that effectively, but, you know, probably something a little more like that. But if he was able to actually turn the corner, he would have been gone. Like, there's nobody here. They're basically just these two guys are the only people that have any chance at Worthy. Samuel is fast and got a good angle, but if not for that, like, there was a chance if Xavier got past Samuel quickly, you know, he might have been able to turn this corner and just go, which would have been very exciting to watch. All in all, it's awesome that we saw two crucial plays, the sprint right option and this drag concept and the mesh, that are being run for Xavier Worthy. Mahomes does a good job here. You know, he knows what he's looking for, watches him over, easy completion, first down. Chiefs ended the game there, ended up with a win. And I had mentioned on our Steeler Thoughts, Chief Feelings podcast this week that obviously the Rashee Rice injury is, you know, a big bummer from this game. Now, I don't know that it's so clear that it's going to be season ending. It's kind of hard to say at this point. The fact that we don't have a definitive answer means that there isn't something that's like clearly bad, right? That there might come something that's clearly bad at some point, but from what we know right now, the imaging isn't showing something that's like clearly and obviously bad that would be out for the season. But if you take away the Rice injury in any case, I feel like this was a really good win for the Chiefs. This was a game where they really struggled, self-inflicted wounds, then the injury. They couldn't get their pass protection figure out. They're shuffling wide receivers, and then they kind of figured things out halfway through the second quarter, or a little later than that. And offensively, they put together 2 touchdown drives and a field goal drive after that. They had another drive that almost ended in a field goal. They moved the ball a little bit in the second half, and I thought they stabilized quite a bit. The defense, again, was like just stellar. You know, the first drive is the only thing you could ever really besmirch the defense about. Their second drive that they gave the field goal up on was a very short field. They did give up a long drive in the third and fourth quarter, but managed to stop the Chargers on downs. So really great performance by the defense. I think it should be an encouraging win for Chiefs fans because this team was very resilient in this game. Obviously, we hope that Rashee Rice ends up being able to come back. It would make the win even that much sweeter. Obviously, one shouldn't expect him to come back anytime soon if he does, but we're all hoping for a good result. In any case, thanks you all. Thanks to everyone that has been following along or that watches any of our videos, either here on this YouTube channel or listens to the podcast on whatever app you download podcasts on. We have been releasing them usually on Monday or Tuesday nights after the week of football. Thanks also to those of you that follow along on social media. We are at STCF715 on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. We try to stay active on all 3, but we're especially active on Twitter after Chiefs and Steelers games. Speaking of the Steelers, we'll try to get the Steelers film review from their loss at the Colts. We'll try to get that film review out tomorrow. Until then, and until we release more things, please continue to comment on the stuff we post. We really enjoy reading your comments, and we'll try to address any questions that come up in the comments. Thanks so much. Until next time.